Welcome to the June 28th edition of the PFF Forecast. It is a beautiful summer's day. I think everyone in the world is thinking about anything probably but football, but we are not your average group. And so we're still thinking about it, and we're going to talk about it. We've got some great stuff, a little conversation, some news about Dalvin Cook, some news about Brad may or may not be breaking some news about who is at the heart of this betting scandal that we've heard about with NFL players. Talk a little bit about Devontae Parker going to the Patriots. Does that impact whether Hopkins goes there? A little conversation about roster construction, where you might be able to get away with not having a star. Good conversation there. And then we close out with a golf bet for this weekend, because we can't stop betting. You know that. It's going to be a great show. Let's rock. Nothing gives me more excitement, Brad, than talking about running backs, and especially ones that are getting signed in mid-June. This feels like Leonard Fournette all over again. And in the news, it turns out that Leonard Fournette escaped unharmed, thankfully, from a car accident, which is good news for a couple of reasons, because that's the first time that he's actually broken past contact since he signed with the Bucks. So
You're just gonna leave that, just dovetail that, just dot that, and hand that off to me. I'm glad Letty's okay. I'm glad he, escaped. Apparently, his car burst into flames, which is probably a terrifying situation.
this bodes well. I'm telling you, this bodes well. I'm picking him in fantasy this year. It really does bode well. No, please, I apologize for the crappy joke. I just think it was a decent joke. But let's focus on the Dalvin Cook stuff. So tell me a little bit more kind of what we know about this situation. It feels like this is all anyone wants to talk about for some unknown reason. But what do we know about where he might sign? Has he gotten any offers? What's the deal?
Yeah, so a report from at Florida Sports Buzz on Twitter. I think his name is Barry Jackson, who is a legit source, puts out some credible info about the Miami Dolphins, really Miami sports in general. Reported that the Miami Dolphins have made Dalvin Cook an offer. He's, of course, from South Florida. They do have some guys, obviously drafted Devin Achane in the third round, have two of your favorites in Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson. But, I think Dalvin Cook would be a great fit in that offense. Mike McDaniel, similar rushing scheme to Minnesota, yada, yada. But we know, of course, he didn't take that deal. He's mulling over other potential offers, probably trying to get more money. But there is one deal on the table that at least help him set an anchor and try to get more on top of that. We'll see if that actually works out for him.
What do you think that deal was? What do you think that offer was?
Yeah, if I had to bet, I think it would be a 1-year deal for $5.5–6 million. You mentioned Lenny Fournette. You look back historically at running back signing in late June, July, near training camp. Big name profile, high profile guys that are still sub 30. Cook's 27. I bet Fournette was about 27 the first time he signed with the Buccaneers. Was a 1-year $3.25 million deal. And he wasn't playing at the level Dalvin Cook was. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about this. Look, Cook's stuff rate of 24% over the last 2 years is the highest in the NFL. So he does still have explosiveness in him. He's top 5 in explosive rushes, top 10 in forced missed tackles per attempt. But you are starting to see him get stopped at the line a decent amount. But nevertheless, still better than what Fournette was doing going into that signing a couple of years ago.
It's really interesting because people have brought this up, and it's been mentioned a bunch, that he's struggling to kind of get away from contact, and particularly against bigger, stronger athletes. I think that bodes that data points to that. And the thought is, well, I've gotten this surgery. Was it rotator cuff or labrum or something like that? Not a doctor here, but the idea would be, okay, now I'm feeling better. I'm able to get away from that contact. So I guess that's the narrative that they're spinning. I think it's really interesting that the dollar figure that you point out, because the question that everyone keeps wanting to talk about is this unfair? Right? Like our running backs, you had that Saquon Barkley kind of passionate monologue about how, they're making so much less money relative to all these other positions. They're great players that are there and they're not making a lot of money. And I'm curious, you wrote a great article on pff.com, which, by the way, promo code forecast, 25% off. You're going to want to get it now. I promise you. Just listen to me. You're going to want to get that subscription now. Fantasy season, betting season, it is coming. Great article kind of talking about this, posing some questions. I guess two-part question. What would potentially be done? What could be done? And do you think this is actually unfair? Like what's your kind of personal and knowledgeable take on it?
So I think two reasons why people view it as unfair and their logical rationales is first, just the standpoint of we know the position's going to get a ton of touches. They might get hit more than any other, non-trench player in football. And so that obviously says, oh, that guy should get paid. He's getting hit a lot. I get the connection there, even if it doesn't make a ton of football sense. The second point is, and this is how the article kicks off, Adrian Peterson signed a contract for over $14 million a year about a dozen years ago. And it's basically still like he would be the fifth highest paid running back of all time still today. And you look at any other position, and obviously the highest paid guy in 2011 probably wouldn't be a top 20 highest paid player at their position now. So I think those two endpoints or those 2 points there are why I think we're having this conversation. I think it's fascinating if running back was never kind of viewed that highly and paid at the top of the market or, ahead of a lot of positions, maybe we don't feel the same way. I think to the point of what can you possibly do? I frankly think the only thing you can do is shorten rookie contracts because the data is out there. It's proven there's going to be a decline at 27, 28 years old, which is the end of a lot of, these rookie deals or a rookie deal plus a fifth-year option, plus a franchise tag, etc., like a Saquon Barkley, for example. Otherwise, I don't really see an end in sight. I think we're approaching an inflection point, but I think Christian McCaffrey's $16 million a year might stand, it was signed in 2020, might stand for 3-4 more years as the top contract at the position.
Yeah, until inflation gets going.
Yeah.
Of course, doesn't. That's really the only way. I think the first point that I would make is I think Saquon's doing the right thing by arguing for the position, right? And I think anyone that wants to kind of say, oh, he's wrong, it's like, he should be doing this, okay? He's making a passionate argument. He's doing so on behalf of the players that play his position. And he's not in a space where he can shift positions, right? He can't go play a more valuable position. So I think he's right to do that. But I mean, I'm a believer in the free market. And I understand that there's a salary cap here. And so, you could make one argument that if you got rid of the salary cap, all players would just be making more. But I don't think that changes the dynamics. And the point here is not that running backs are all of a sudden not making a good wage, right? They're making a lot of money. The thing here is that they're making a lot less relative to other positions that they generally think they're as important as, right? So I'm not actually sure that getting rid of the salary cap helps this. You get rid of the salary cap, Mahomes is going to make $1 billion and you're going to pay Christian McCaffrey maybe 25 million. Like, okay. You're just redistributing that. So I'm not sure that gets rid of the problem. Curious about the shortening of the rookie contract. So rookie running backs are probably as good as they may ever be. Like, do you shorten it to 1 year? Is that what you do?
So if you make it 3 years, then in theory you could extend after 2, because obviously you can extend, right now after 3. And I think you just have a couple guys that come in are just awesome right away and just make sure they at least get to that second contract. I think a third contract conversation, we're never going to get there, but it's more so obviously Dalvin did get paid, but I think the guys right now, like a Josh Jacobs, like a Saquon Barkley, they could just get tagged until their career is over. They were first and third in touches last year. And again, the salary cap thing makes no sense. The biggest position that took a jump with running back going down was right tackle. Like the way resources were allocated were also just dumb by the league. This tackle position is not important as left tackle. That didn't make any logical sense. So there is like an ebb and flow and a balancing of where the money went. It didn't just disappear. But But yeah, the shortening is just simply because they can at least get that second payday, and that's kind of, it's at least something.
Yeah. So it's interesting, a conversation about like whether what they're getting paid now is right relative to other players. So if you look at PFF WAR, wins above replacement, and shout out to the great Eric Eager, who built the framework, and it's still, I think, the best metric is it uses PFF grades, but also takes into account positional importance and how that contributes to wins. So it's a great way at ordering the positions. So I'm just comparing wide receiver and running back because I think that's the most comparable. And Justin Jefferson was worth more than twice as much what Christian McCaffrey was last year, the two most valuable players at each position. Justin Jefferson, 0.7 wins above replacement, Christian McCaffrey, 0.33. And you think about, that kind of top line for a wide receiver, about 30 mil. You talked about Christian McCaffrey at 16. If you build in the fact that wide receivers are more durable, they're going to have better years in their out years than running backs, I think you could make the exact, I think, argument that you're making, which is you may actually continue to see these go down. Like, I don't think they've equalized. Like, I think you're going to continue to see running back deals diminish relative to other positions because the value is just not there, right? So the idea would be with Justin Jefferson, I can see him, or maybe take a Devontae Adams or a Tyreek Hill because of their age. Like, I could expect them to continue that path, maybe even continue to grow in terms of their value, but sustain that value. Whereas with a running back, my confidence in Christian McCaffrey being the most valuable running back next year is low. Like, just because of all the different things that can go into it. Would you agree or disagree with that that kind of there's still room actually to space these things out?
Oh, I think you're spot on. I mean, so the McCaffrey point is interesting because he is now clearly an inflection point, and I raised this in the article as well. If I was Jonathan Taylor's agent, I think the last breath I would try to argue with the Indianapolis Colts is quite literally 1 week to the day before the draft class where Taylor was taken, where the Colts traded up in the second round. McCaffrey gets extended this massive deal. The Colts say, okay, we're going to trade up to go get Jonathan Taylor with plenty of other issues on our roster. He comes in, has an all-pro rushing title season in his second season of his career. Yes, last year he got hurt, but, was still effective when he played. And now I don't think he's even going to sniff $16 million a year. And that's 3 years ago. So no, I think it's still going to trend downward. I wonder if Barkley and Jacobs can even get 13, like, can they even hit $13 million a year? I'm not sure. And then you look at the list of guys coming up and it's like, a lot of guys in recent draft classes just haven't exactly panned out, and you need that next guy. Like, literally, like, you look at it, I'm like, Bijan in 3 years, if he is what we expect him to be, like, might be the next guy that could break through. That's kind of how bleak it looks if you just go back and look at the classes. Obviously, no first running backs last year. The Seahawks then add another second rounder on top of Kenneth Walker pretty much right away. Breece Hall tears his ACL. The Jets are also apparently in the Dalvin Cook conversation. Like, you just go back, there's not a guy that is of the Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott type status coming up.
Ezekiel Elliott, thanks for throwing him in there. That was definitely a warranted contract extension. It's a very good point. I think we're also trying to crown. I mean, Saquon had a big injury, right? So as much talent as you think he has, he's not in that class. Dalvin Cook's not in that class. Jonathan Taylor, as good as he is as a runner, he's not nearly as good of a pass catcher as Christian McCaffrey is. And so that's a component of this. I'm not sure any of these guys are as good of a runner as Adrian Peterson was, when he got that deal. And that was obviously a different NFL. So I think it's a good point. Here's my suggestion, Brad. So I don't think you can fight, like, trying to fight against the market is a losing proposition. I think the answer to this question is to you have a couple of options. One is, if you're a running back, you just decide not to play running back, right? Like, I think it's going to become, that's what it's going to become. Right now, a guy like Saquon Barkley plays running back because when he was the most athletic kid on the field growing up, that was where you could have the biggest impact. That's just going to change, right? It's going to be a fundamental shift. But for the running backs that are there right now, I think the biggest opportunity is through marketing and media. because these players are still valuable from a fantasy perspective. You can obviously still bet on them. And there's you can leverage your personality, leverage the fact that people who are playing fantasy, need you. I think Austin Eckler is starting to do that. And really, that's, I think, the avenue that you can take. Now, there's just less money for non-quarterback positions in this avenue, but you're starting to see some wide receivers, get more dollars from marketing and sponsorship. I think that's the biggest avenue that they have. I think trying to fight against the way that you're valued relative to other positions is a losing battle, to be honest.
Here's an interesting thought, and then I do have a question for you. So the thought is, the league ties jersey sales. Obviously, it is a pool. I think it is spread out to a degree, but obviously, if you sell a bajillion jerseys, you're going to get a much larger share of that pie. What if in the next CBA, which obviously is eternity from now, but it literally had a provision, the amount of bets or the total handle on you, on your props, on you actually get, like, it actually is distributed, because that's always going to be the most bet position group any given Sunday or even season. Yeah, like maybe that is an actual way, but like you're saying, find other revenue streams that still come from football, but are not, on-field NFL contracts. The question I had for you, because you mentioned this, and we all love the aesthetic of an elite running back and just watching that and what that brings to the game of football. You talk about Saquon Barkley, that kid coming up now is in the slot, or he's playing safety, or doing whatever. Like, do you think we get to a point where, I don't know, like where we just lose some of the beauty of the game?
That's a really good question. There's such depth at running back. I think that's the other challenge, is you're not going to have 5'8", 5'9" wide receivers, right? I think that's going to be a challenge. I don't know that safety is that, is going to be that premium of a position, and maybe we're learning more about it. Corner, potential option. But I think it's almost a science thing. You're going to have guys that are shorter, who are agile as hell, who are fast in short distances. Like that, you just have a larger market of. So I think the really elite guys, if you're 6 feet tall, yeah, go try and play, wide receiver, go try and play quarterback. Like, you think I'm kidding? Like, Russell Wilson's been a quarterback, Drew Brees, go try. I think you should try that more frequently. But I think it's a really good point. If you do get that, what I'd be curious about, Brad, is whether the pendulum swings back. Like, do you ever get to a point where there's just not enough talent, where there is a huge disparity? And now if you're really elite, people are training for you. I'll throw it back to you, and we can close out on this conversation, move to the next, is because I think your betting idea is phenomenal. And I think that's that's the answer, to be perfectly honest with you. But is there a situation where, so you think about the elite running back, right? And is there a situation where that elite running back is so much better than the other players at that position? And then all of a sudden, the NFL starts to change. So right now it's a passing league. Do you think there's a shift at all coming? Like, all things, everything's cyclical. Should running backs be patient? Should they look around the corner and go, hey, we're going to change rules about passing. People are going to get better at stopping the pass. The run is going to come back into vogue. And I should actually, continue to focus on being a good runner. Is that something that you could see happening? And then all of a sudden the elite running backs do get paid.
I think this is a good way to kind of tie a bow on it too. So the answer is, like, of course, we're seeing so many lighter boxes. We are seeing environments that are now more friendly to the running game, because defenses are obviously predicated on stopping the pass and doing all they can from a personnel standpoint, from a alignment standpoint, to simply do that. So the way I said, the reason I say it ties a bow is, the Vikings faced the 8th lightest boxes on average in the NFL last year, because they had a good passing attack, and obviously Justin Jefferson, and it still kind of really didn't, matter enough to the extent that Cook could earn a $10.4 million salary at 27. So I almost say, like, I obviously followed the train of thought. I think the overall run game will matter, but I still feel like it's going to be the same issue. Is that like, okay, yeah, we want a good run game. We're going to have guards that we signed for run blocking, not for pass pro. We're going to, hire an offensive coordinator, but we're still going to just plug a body in at the running back position itself.
I think you're right, with one potential exception. So what you're pointing out is that you can't fight the dynamics of the play. Not only have we learned that the run game matters less, but we've talked about this a bunch. How the run game works is also a bigger function of your run blocking than it is the actual talent of your runner. The one thing that I think would be interesting is, what about the quarterback position? How does the quarterback position turn into an important running position if that shift changes? And could you now have a guy as a Bijan Robinson, if he could just pass decently, is he so valuable as a quarterback runner, right? That, now it becomes that much more valuable, and you have that sort of ability to transition. I know we're kind of getting into like Looney Tunes, how like the game is played, but it's interesting. I mean, people 20 years ago would not have, for a second recognized the game that, is being played today, or maybe 30 years ago. But I tend to agree with you. I just think the dynamics don't favor it.
I know you were just throwing out a random name, but I have to add, Bijan is that. I think he was a high school quarterback. So maybe I think he justified the top 10 pick. I think he's a lefty too. And I think a Wildcat with him throwing the ball, give it to us, Arthur Smith. Give us what we want.
He can't be worse than Desmond Ridder. I mean, the fact, I didn't know that. I would have been clamoring for Bijan to start at quarterback. That would have been that's why that pick made sense.
Now you're in. See, now you're in.
Yeah.
There you go.
Brilliant move by the Atlanta Falcons, and wizard beyond light years ahead. Arthur Smith. He's been saving Kyle Pitts for this moment. He knew better than all of us. All right, we're gonna move on. And before we do, look, running backs want to extend their life on the football field. You want to extend the life of your family and the financial welfare of those you care about off the field. And that's where our good friends at Western and Southern and Gerber Life have your back covered. Look, you want to spend your time. I know Brad and I want to do this. We don't have kids yet, but I can just tell you, if and when we are so lucky to have them, I still don't want to give up my time thinking about football. So I don't want to spend hours and hours figuring out life insurance so that my family can be taken care of. And this is where Gerber Life comes into play. And Fabric, their new app, can help you get the insurance that your family needs in like 10 minutes. It's so easy. Fabric by Gerber Life makes this quick, painless, and you get to protect your family with term life insurance so you can focus on football. Fabric was designed by parents, for parents, to help you get a high quality, surprisingly affordable life term insurance in less than 10 minutes. Less than 10 minutes. I would have thought I needed to like go talk to someone on the phone. They have a rotary phone. I don't know, but apparently it's just that easy. Technology is amazing. So here's how you do it. You go to meet, MEET, fabric.com/forecast. That's MEETFABRIC.com/forecast to get started today. Policies issued by Western and Southern Life Insurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. All right. Let's move on to the next topic, which is wide receiver news for the Patriots. Tell me more.
Yep. So the New England Patriots have agreed to an extension with Devontae Parker, the guy they traded for from the Miami Dolphins a couple years ago. I think he's entering his age 30 season. It was reported as a 3-year, up to $33 million deal. But I think we have some solid context here. Juju Smith-Schuster's free agent deal was also reported as 3 years, up to 33, and it came in at 25.5. Based on the guarantees, I think Parker's deal is actually going to be like 3 years, 24, is my guess as of right now. I don't think it necessarily impacts DeAndre Hopkins. I think they kind of probably view him more as a Z, keep Parker as the X. People are going to laugh at this, and I get why. He's older. He has injury issues of his own. Go look at some of his stats in our database. If you want a jump ball, downfield contested catch guy, he still is that. He doesn't drop the ball. He is, he's a tight end effectively and a red zone target. But nevertheless, not a move I expected necessarily. Look, I projected a lot of extensions. I didn't get around to projecting a Devontae Parker extension.
I mean, talk to me about things that matter, please. Do you have anything? Do you have any news that matters for the NFL?
Yeah.
No, look, Devontae Parker. I was a part of the Devontae Parker hive when he went to Miami, and maybe that's the reason I think this is like, who really cares. But I guess the only, what's interesting is I view him as like, and this is a slight, I think, to DeAndre Hopkins, but like as a super poor man's DeAndre Hopkins, in kind of body structure. Now he's more of a downfield guy, but I think that's a function of the fact that he's just not very good. Like he's one of those guys that's like athletic, but not good. So like, I just run downfield and like, we'll chuck it up to you. But like, we do not want you running like, slants and stuff for first downs. Like we'll check it out to you every once in a while. So my take would be that if anything, I don't think this gets in the way. Do you think it gets in the way of DeAndre Hopkins? Like, I feel like Hopkins would be more inclined to join a group that's just better, as opposed to being like, oh, and I'm not going to go there because of Devontae Parker.
No, I don't. I think they had no receivers besides No, anyway, no, I don't. I don't think it impacts it. I think it's more just keeping a guy around. Probably lowers his cap hit a little bit. Not lowers it so much that it then makes a Hopkins, deal more likely. But no, I don't. I think it is really the Patriots have always been a team of we're going to go quantity, kind of not over quality. Obviously, they had Randy Moss, they had Gronk, which everyone kind of glosses over, but they've never really viewed receiver as get a number one. I mean, obviously, they've tried, they've drafted a lot of busts, and give that guy a ton of money. They've always kind of spread it out, and historically, it did work. Probably more a function of Tom Brady than anything else. But the question for you is, in a world where, CeeDee Lamb's probably going to get $25 to $30 million, Justin Jefferson might get 32, 33, 34, $35 million. Like, do you think, as we're talking about, value and between the two positions, like, do we get to a point where maybe the number one receiver contracts go so high and get so big that it actually can be a detriment, because then you don't have, the value of tertiary receivers. Eric wrote an article about a couple of years ago that, still very relevant. Like, do you think there was an inflection point there and the Patriots are kind of trying to, zag when everyone else is zigging?
This is a good question. I think so. Who would you point to as a team that like has done this effectively?
Yeah, so them historically, it's a good question, right? You when you think of like good playoff teams in recent Super Bowl runs, a lot of them had a dog at receiver. So, yeah, do you have any thoughts on the top of your head? I mean, I'm just thinking of them for the entire 2010s, and again, the tight end loophole, per se. I mean, the Chiefs last year, why not?
That's the one that I thought you were going to bring up, and I don't think it's a fair one for two reasons. Okay. The first is Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Like, if you are just agnostic of positions, picking an alpha receiver, right? Where does Kelce land on your list? Like, I think it's an interesting question.
No, I know. Yeah. I mean, he led the league in yards after the catch last year. So,
yeah, I think he's top five, right? And I'm not sure that you're arguing for him at the very top. Like, I think I probably take Jefferson or Chase. But then I think once you get to like Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, like that's where I'm arguing with Kelce, right? I think, so top five makes sense. Okay, so they have a top five receiving option. Okay, so that does not count, right? What you're talking about is basically what, the mid wide receiver and tight end core. Does that group? So here's the way I would almost rephrase the question. What's the threshold at which you don't need to have a top tier guy? Like, if you have two guys that are top 20, if you have three guys that are top 30, right? Like, is there a mix and match that's more effective cost-wise, maybe is what you're getting at, right? Because if it's not, it doesn't scale linearly, I don't think. And you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think like wide receiver contracts scale linearly based on kind of their ranking, right? So is there an opportunity, because wide receivers are getting paid a lot more, to increase your efficiency and allocate cash kind of better around it? That, I think, is a really good question. The second reason that argument doesn't stand is, even if you want to say tight end is different, And I think we just dispelled that notion. Patrick Mahomes is different. So if you're going to accomplish this, you need a guy that is different. Mac Jones, I hate to break it to everybody, is not that guy. Like I would argue Mac Jones requires that type of person just to be halfway decent. So I'll throw it back to you. I think my initial take is no, like that premise just does not hold. But could there be a place, like not with the Midville Patriots core, but could there be something that is in between that and having a stud that does work?
Here's a question I now have, or a team I now comes to mind, and obviously they now have Calvin Ridley, but last year's Jacksonville Jaguars, right? And obviously their offense was clunky at times. Yes, Christian Kirk got overpaid, to ask anybody, but him making $18 million a year is not a top 15 contract at the position at this point. Again, they now have Calvin Ridley, but if we're going to have Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, who, he's solid, but let's not like totally overreact to one good season. I don't think you'd rank him a top 5 tight end. He's probably a fringe top 10 tight end. Like maybe there are a better recent example, and how high was their ceiling really going to be before adding in a Calvin Ridley? I don't know. I think it's the product of today's game. I think you do sometimes need that bucket, right? The go-to guy that can just make high leverage plays in big moments, that can beat the good NFL teams and not take over, but just even if they do take attention away, that in itself carries inherent value as well. And then, increasing the value of everybody else in the roster. So I don't know. As a guy who I've said this on podcasts many times, like I grew up like in part fascinated by how the Patriots didn't really spend at receiver and had the best offense, year after year. I think that might be a relic of the where we're at right now. I'm not sure you can get away with that in today's football.
So actually, I think that the trick there was when you look at, so if Travis Kelce is a top 5 receiving option, okay, Travis Kelce is making $14 million a year. Devontae Adams is making what, 30?
Yeah, 28. Yeah.
So yeah. So sorry, I'm not the cap guy here.
No,
Tyreek's 30. Devontae's making 20. Yeah. So if you lump all of those together, right, the scaling becomes, is even more wonky, right? And so let's kind of take a look at this. So this isn't going to work perfectly because the top paid guys aren't the top 10 most valuable, but like, let's take a Terry McLaurin. So Terry McLaurin's the 10th highest paid per year. He's at 23. You could make an argument he's the 10th best receiver in the league. It might be a little high. Let's go like 10 more down. It's interesting. Tyler Lockett's making like 17. Mike Evans is making 16.5. Even further down to go to our guy, Devontae Parker, he's making, he's making 10 a year. Jacoby Myers, 11. So it's an interesting question. I wonder if it's not even about wide receiver. It's about the key is getting a great tight end, because then you're spending half as much as you need to at wide receiver for that elite guy. And then you can fill them out with the average guys and save cost-wise, as opposed to like your receiving core is actually taking advantage of players further down the list.
That's been a cheat code forever. I mean, like obviously Gronk was the first, but I think even in New Orleans, yes, Marquise Colson's a good player, but like Jimmy Graham was your big, and obviously they didn't even pay him, but like he was your guy, and then you just kind of had some dudes around him, and they still had crazy offenses. Yeah, like I mean the tight end thing 110%, and I don't think that's going to change necessarily soon either. It's obviously not in the same state as the running back market, but Hawkinson I think should try to top the market this offseason. We'll see if he accomplishes that. It is the cheat code. And then I guess the question turns to then, we obviously, you look back at Kyle Pitts going 4th overall, and we make the argument of he becomes one of the highest paid players at the position on draft night. He actually has the most fully guaranteed money in a contract at the position in his rookie deal, which is kind of crazy. But, the opportunity cost there is tough, and you're taking a cheap position. You're not getting good surplus value relative to the market. But then you kind of counter that and say, well, yeah, but also if he becomes a dude, and I know he gets a lot of shade. I mean, he had 1,000 yards as a rookie tight end, which is unheard of. Like, you could argue, okay, well, yeah, but like we're comparing him to a pseudo hybrid tight end receiver market, even if you don't use full receiver. And then you can argue there's this bigger, surplus value potential. That, I guess, is kind of, we're seeing that play out, the last couple drafts.
This is a good research topic. and we talked about underrated wide receivers, but digging into now that we have data on every single route and every single coverage position, we've done some of this analysis, looking at targeted players, right? And that's why when you look at WAR, right, wins above replacement, you get, tight ends earning not quite at that ceiling of where wide receivers are at. And I think there's probably more conversation to be had. There's more analysis to be done. A lot of that is because it's easier to win from the slot. It's traditionally easier to win at the tight end in line position. And so those receptions, even though they're valuable, are just not, quite there. But here's the thing, Travis Kelce earned 0.69 WAR last year. I just talked about Justin Jefferson being at 0.71. So that said, it's still a thing. Now, the challenge here is that of the top 10 guys, Travis Kelce is the only one in the top 10 there, right? Kyle Pitts not scratching that. Mark Andrews, George Kittle, they're down there in the 10, 15 range. And that's where I think the question shows up is like, if you don't have Travis Kelce, if you don't have Gronk, does that next guy there, because then it's a scarcity thing. But I think what does come from this is those guys, just as we talked about running back, those guys, in my opinion, should see their contracts increase, pretty substantially relative to the wide receiver position. That would be my take. And I think with Kyle Pitts, that analysis, I think, will help shed light. But I think what Travis Kelce's already done should start proving this point. And I think you could make a case, Brad, that the tight end position, we've seen some longevity at that position. And wide receiver, you have it there as well. But the tight ends tend to kind of mature a little bit later, it seems. I think people have studied this as well. If I'm forgetting their names, I apologize. But that's almost a benefit to you, because if you draft them highly and they don't quite ascend within their rookie deal, you might be able to avoid paying them that full boat, right? That $30 million a year, if they get to that, until their third contract. And then you don't have to pay it at that point.
No, for sure. It's interesting because there are certainly some. You just think off the top of your head, the Antonio Gates, guys that played for a very, very long time at a high level. Tony Gonzalez, et cetera. Obviously, Kelce right now, but then it's also like Gronk retired his first time at 29 years old, right? And there's like a bunch of dudes that don't make it to the age 30. So it is kind of an ebb and flow. I think the last piece here, and now we're kind of on a bit of a tangent, but the issue is the league is still very bad at identifying which guys are actually good. So you go into the draft, and if you use an early draft pick, Hawkinson is a success story, and he's not on the team he got taken by. In the same draft class, Noah Fant, his teammate at Iowa, is on his second team. Like, you continue to go back and look at the top 50 picks at tight end. Travis Kelce, third rounder. George Kittle, fifth rounder. Like, it's not. Mark Andrews was the second tight end taken by his own team in that year, about 80 picks after Hayden Hurst. So it's like that's kind of the issue as well. I think is the league is still not very efficient at identifying who's actually good.
Yeah, it's a fantastic point, and much better at identifying, wide receivers. Pretty high. All right, before we get to the news, the breaking news, if you were looking for a way to enjoy this lovely summer and still be involved in football, I would recommend you head over to DraftKings, play a little best ball. Great way to prepare yourself for your redraft league. You draft with people that actually care, because best ball is for money, and you don't have to manage your team week to week. And if you go to DraftKings, you can get a chance at $10 million in guaranteed cash prizes that are up for grabs with best ball on DraftKings. They've always done a fantastic job of bringing the biggest cash prizes to fantasy, and they're doing it again with best ball. Use promo code PFF, go to the DraftKings app when you sign up, get into the DraftKings Best Ball Millionaire Contest, and snake draft your team for the season. Teams with the most points at the end of the season will have a shot to take home a $1 million top prize. So go use promo code PFF and sign up on the DraftKings app right now. You think the offseason stinks? It does not. Best ball, as you've covered. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. One per customer. Opt-in required. $10 entry fee. Bonus issued in 10 DK dollars. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See DraftKings.com/promotions for details. Ends 7/14/23. That's only a few days away, so go make it happen. All right, more NFL players that are getting in trouble for betting on sports. We already know Isaiah Rodgers. is one of them. Apparently, there is another. Brad, you have some information on this.
Well, there are a handful more coming through. I think the NFL, one of the most infamous and biggest dates of the year is actually the Friday before July 4th news dump. I think it goes Super Bowl, first night of draft, and then announce the PED suspensions on Friday, July 2nd. I think that's a big date in their calendar. So I think we're going to get that again. I have not got a name. I haven't got a position or anything. I was told that a starting offensive player in the AFC South, and maybe one tip, I don't know this for a fact, but this team has hosted a marquee free agent on offense recently. Maybe that's a hint. I don't know if it is, but that probably tips you off to who the team is. And I heard a starting offensive player for that team is going to be one of the guys that is going to get swept up in this. Like I said, probably on Friday. I think a lot of people have said, oh, Isaiah Rodgers, if he's the name, then there's not going to be a bigger name than him. I think his story just got out there. I think it's one way or the other. It got out there. He obviously then, tweeted out an apology. Look, I think if if Justin Jefferson got caught, we know about it. But I think there still could be some players, some contributors caught up in this. And yeah, that's the one I've heard that could be maybe the biggest surprise of the news dump on Friday.
So if it's Chiggy Okonkwo, we riot.
I think we just come on the pod and just like light a fire behind us, get some like cold ones, and just really talk it out.
We have to have him on the podcast at that point. I mean, I feel like we would have to, maybe start a GoFundMe for him, for our king. There was a story that came out about a player losing $8 million this year betting. That sounds like probably how much Michael Jordan wagers on a random Thursday night, but that could be like a really sizable amount. Hoping that this isn't the case, but like, man, for a lot of NFL players, unless you're a star, like that would be really tough to handle, right? Like, are we far away from seeing a guy like, go into bankruptcy because of betting at this point? That'd be terrible, but like 8 million is a lot.
$8 million in a year. I know we just talked about contracts, dude. $8 million in cash after taxes. There are not a lot of NFL players that have that. Like, genuinely, there are not. It's not a long list of dudes. I wonder if we ever get the name there. But yeah, it's a guy who's probably on his third contract and probably looking for a fourth right now on that Adrian Peterson diet, trying to get another deal out there. But yeah, that's a scary large number to lose in a single year.
A lot. Like, you could almost narrow down the players that could afford that. You could do so pretty quickly, right?
Yes.
There's so many players that like that wouldn't be a really, really dire situation, especially because like if you're making a lot of money, people don't, maybe most people probably do understand this, but like if you're making that much money, your costs are increasing with that that cash, right? So it's not like, it's not like they've got the same budget you and I have and then just get, a $52 million check. And it's like, yeah, I'm just going to put all that in the bank. So, those watches and cars cost money.
They certainly do. And apparently so do, parlays on college. I mean, it was a March Madness, just a rough opening weekend. I mean, who knows what he was doing there? But yeah, 8 million is a ton. Just tying this in real quick. I'm actually in a lobby for a DraftKings best ball draft right now. So we do research for the people. It's 8 hours per pick, so I'm not doing it actively. But anyway, it's good so far. I'm enjoying myself.
Slow drafts, they're important. Equally as important, it's summer. Okay, look, it's July 4th. So at this point, if you have not heard our call, if you do not have an active participation card for Smooth Sack Summer, the time is running out here. But let me just public service announcement. If you go and you still have not gotten your Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, it might be too late for July 4th, but there are a few more weekends to be had. Don't waste those. Okay, get yourself in a good situation for those that are coming your way. And dive into Smooth Sack Summer with manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with promo code PFF. I use their performance package 4.0. I can attest to it. That I just got their new beard package or facial hair package. I'm butchering that, but you get the idea. And it is really solid, really quality stuff. The beard trimmer, I had an old one. I got rid of it. I liked it a lot. I got rid of it because this one has such fine precision in terms of how you can adjust the settings. Got it without putting like 40 clips on. It's like, yeah, I got to take this one off, put this one on. You don't have to do any of that. Great piece of machinery. So I highly recommend it. I use the product. Look at Brad's facial hair. I mean, you think you're getting that without, look at that. It's impressive.
Teach that.
Yeah. So you can travel with them. The batteries last forever. That's a huge thing as well. You don't have to carry, 15 cords with you. So I think hopefully if you don't get it at this point, then you may never. And that sucks for you. Go to manscaped.com, promo code PFF and get 20% plus free shipping off the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. I should call out, really great. And as well, the beard trimmer, which comes with a whole host of things. It's fantastic. It's like, a whole box with salvos and beard oils, and they even give you scissors to like trim the hair in your nose. So you'll be in good shape. Okay. That had to be one of the best reads. That was passionate, Brad. I feel like you could really, sense the love of the product that I have.
I think listeners were opening up a tab. Like that was really just from the heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, look, that's what being a member of Smooth Sack Summer does for someone, right? It's compelling stuff. All right. We're going to close out with this. There is a sport that's being played that we like to bet on. It is golf. Shout out to Data Golf, by the way. Fantastic place to get great data analysis on the game of golf. We had Keegan Bradley run away with the tournament last week. I think some of the players that we had discussed could have had a chance, but we're on to next week. So talk to us a little bit about the upcoming PGA Tour slate.
Yeah, no, constantly learning. It was not our best week last week. I think, honestly, for the most part, we've given out some quality bets. Obviously, not always winning, but if you took our names, top 20, top 10, I think you've probably won a good chunk of money. I know our matchups are positive on the year. So we are learning, though. Look, we are admittedly somewhat new to this. I think the biggest thing that I had to kind of sit back and say, all right, we're not betting majors every time. The fields are different. The courses are different. What matters is very different. And this week is like last week, where I think the winner might be 20 under or better at the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit. I mean, the last couple winners are some long shots, and they're all around 20 under or better. They're going to tear this course up. So what matters here at this course is accuracy off the tee, and then approach from 50 to 150 yards. Data Golf splits those two things up. And we one pick we like here. It is Christian Kirk, our guy, Christian Kirk, who we've bet on before, who's actually done well for us. I think in two different majors, we took him top 20. Yeah, he's been a good guy for us. So he is 60 to 1 on Caesars to win this tournament. He has the best strokes gained on the PGA Tour on approach shots from 100 to 150 yards this year. He's also very good out of the rough from 100 to or from under 150. And is a fairly accurate driver and doesn't lose distance. He's not a bomber, but does not necessarily lose distance off the tee. And he's just been playing very good golf. He is a guy that can go low. He showed up in a lot of these top 10s, top 20s. And you go look at the recent winners of this tournament. Tony Finau, obviously a very good player, won last year. But Cameron Davis was 125 to 1 the year before that. Like it's not a great field. And I think a guy can just get hot. The putter gets hot and he can run away with this thing. So we like Christian Kirk 60 to 1 on Caesars to win the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit, Michigan.
God, that's beautiful. I'm all in. I mean, I just remember Christian Kirk getting it done for us in big games for the Jags. And I think he's an underrated. It's weird to say this because he got such a big contract, but like contract aside, I think he's an underrated player in the NFL. Contract included, he's probably overrated. But Christian Kirk, our guy, 61. I'm going to bet him. So what is he, top 5, top 10, top 20? Because I think that's important. You got to spread out across those. You don't want a guy to play well, not win, and then be kind of left holding the bag.
That's very fair. Fill the air for 20 more seconds, and I will gladly tell you what he is, top 5, top 10, and top 20.
Do you want another Manscaped Reed, I don't know how much more I can talk about this. I'm going to a place this weekend that the temperature is going to get to 110, and I have zero worries. I'm not worried at all because I've gotten the Manscaped stuff in tow, and so I'm not going to be carrying any extra warmth in the desert.
There you go. All right, here we go. So top 20 for our guy Christian Kirk. Oh yeah, smooth. That transition was smoother than your sack.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, have I talked about that yet?
Yeah. Just you can't teach that, folks. That's just you're just born with that or you're not. So, top 20 is all they have right now on DraftKings. He is plus 230. So I'd imagine top 10 you're looking at 5-1. And top 5, I mean you're looking at over 10-1, probably 15-20-1 range. But honestly, top 20 plus 230 on DraftKings, I like a good bit as well.
Yeah, I'm in. I didn't even mention this at the top, but I'll mention it now for those of you that are still listening. We love you, appreciate you. If you haven't joined the Printing Press Discord, it is the place to. It is a great betting community. Join over 1,000 of our friends who love betting, and we have crushed it this year. I mean, that group is super intelligent. Not just Brad, Judah, Arjun, Ben, the whole group, but a lot of others that are in there that are giving out great information. So it's I think, frankly, better than even the podcast way of making sure that you get the right information to bet, because it's in real time. And when the NFL season comes around, it is a fantastic place to be prepared for every single game. So go join it. The link is in the description in the YouTube. Join the new YouTube channel if you have not already, as well as the tweets that we send out. So we love you all. We appreciate you. We'll see you next Sunday, I guess. We'll talk about that. We'll let people know when we're recording this weekend with the July 4th holiday. Peace out.